Pay attention to the woman in the hard hat and reflective vest standing in the basement of 1847 Vine Street, over the Rhine neighborhood, Cincinnati, Ohio. Her name is Rachel Donovan, 38 years old, 11 years as a fire safety inspector with the Cincinnati Building Department. It is 10:15 a.m. on Wednesday, November 6, 2024, and she is conducting a routine annual fire code inspection of a converted Victorian row house, 4 rental units, built in 1892, renovated in 2020. She is checking furnace clearances. She is checking the electrical panel. She is testing the smoke detector wiring in the basement junction box. She has done this exact inspection hundreds of times across hundreds of buildings. She will later say that nothing about this morning felt different. The coffee was the same, the checklist was the same, the building looked the same as every other converted Victorian she had walked through that month. Then at 10:22 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, she looks up at the basement ceiling and stops writing. The ceiling height is wrong. According to the building plans filed with Hamilton County in 2020, the basement ceiling should sit 9 feet below the first floor apartment. Rachel pulls a laser measure from her vest and points it straight up. The red dot lands on the drywall panel above her, 6 feet. She measures again, 6 feet. She checks the plans on her tablet a second time, 9 feet on file, 6 feet in front of her. 3 feet of this building do not exist on any blueprint filed with any office in the city of Cincinnati. 3 feet of vertical space between the ceiling she is standing under and the floor someone is living on, and no document in the county system accounts for it. She knocks on the ceiling panel. The sound is hollow, not the dense thud of structural wood or poured concrete. Hollow, the sound of empty space behind drywall that should not be there. Rachel Donovan has inspected over 2,000 buildings. She has found code violations, fire hazards, faulty wiring, illegal modifications. She has never found anything like what is behind this ceiling. Nobody has, because what is behind this ceiling was designed by someone who understood exactly how building inspections worked and built something specifically to survive them. Within 40 minutes, Cincinnati Fire Department structural crews would remove a section of that panel. Within an hour, a detective from Hamilton County Major Crimes would be standing where Rachel is standing. Within 24 hours, the name Madison Calloway would appear on every local news broadcast in southern Ohio. But at 10:22 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, Rachel does not know any of that. She knows only that 3 feet of this building are unaccounted for, and behind that panel, the sound is wrong. She reaches for her radio. She was right to reach for it. The girl who never missed a call. Madison Calloway was 21 years old, a junior at the University of Cincinnati studying social work. She lived in a shared apartment in Clifton with 2 roommates, Alyssa Medina and Jordan Thiel, and she worked weekends at a bookstore on Ludlow Avenue called The Dust Jacket. She called her mother Diane in Dayton every Sunday evening, every single Sunday. In 4 years of college, she had not missed once. Not during finals week, not when she had the flu, not when she was camping with friends in Hocking Hills and had to hike 20 minutes uphill to get a signal. She called. Her professors described her with the same word her friends used: steady. She was not the loudest voice in the room. She was the one still sitting there after everyone else had left, asking the question no one else thought to ask, listening with the kind of patience that made people say things they had not planned to say. She wanted to work with at-risk youth after graduation because she believed the most dangerous thing in a young person's life was the feeling that no one was paying attention. She planned to be the person who paid attention. She kept a journal, not on her phone, not on a laptop, handwritten, in green spiral notebooks she bought in bulk from the same office supply store on Reading Road. She carried the current one in her backpack everywhere. She had filled 11 of them since high school. Number 12 was in her bag the evening of May 14, 2024. That evening was a Tuesday. Madison attended 2 morning classes, Introduction to Child Psychology at 9 a.m., Research Methods at 11 a.m. She ate lunch in the Student Center with Alyssa and talked about volunteering at a youth shelter downtown over the summer. She worked on a research paper at the Langsam Library until 3:30 p.m., stopped by the bookstore to pick up her schedule for the following week, and walked home around 4 p.m. She made pasta with red sauce, nothing elaborate. At 6:15 p.m., she sent her mother a text message, "Allergies are killing me. Gonna grab some Zyrtec." Her mother replied with a heart emoji. That heart emoji was the last communication between them for 174 days. At 8:20 p.m., Madison put on a light jacket, picked up her wallet and keys, and walked out the front door of her apartment. She left her phone charging on her nightstand. She would be back in 15 minutes. The CVS was 3 blocks south on Short Vine. She had walked there dozens of times. The route was well lit. The sidewalks were busy with students and residents moving between restaurants and shops. Nothing about that walk on that evening, at that hour, suggested danger of any kind. A security camera mounted on the south wall of a church parking lot recorded Madison walking south on Short Vine at 8:28 p.m. She was wearing a gray zip-up hoodie and jeans. Her hair was in a ponytail. She was walking at a normal pace. She was not looking at a phone because her phone was on her nightstand. The CVS entrance camera, 200 yards further south on the same street, never recorded her arriving. Between those two cameras, there was a gap of approximately 140 yards with no surveillance coverage. In that gap, at that hour, a dark-colored van was parked at the curb. The church camera captured a partial frame of its rear quarter panel at 8:26 p.m. After 8:28 p.m., the van was not visible on any camera in the area. Neither was Madison.
Her roommate, Alyssa, reported her missing at 11:40 p.m. Cincinnati police initiated a search. Local media covered the disappearance for 3 weeks. 16 tips came in. None led anywhere. The dark van was never identified from the partial camera frame. By late June, the case was functionally cold. Madison's mother, Diane, called the assigned detective every Friday morning for 5 months. The answer was always the same. No developments, we have not stopped looking. 174 days passed before anyone found a trace of Madison Calloway, and the person who found that trace was not a detective, not a federal agent, not a search volunteer. It was a fire inspector who looked up at a basement ceiling on a Wednesday morning and noticed that the numbers did not match. What was behind the panel? Rachel reported her finding to dispatch at 10:32 a.m. Cincinnati Fire Department structural crew arrived at 11 a.m. They removed a 4-foot section of the basement ceiling panel using a reciprocating saw. Dust and insulation fell in sheets. Behind the drywall was a void space, 3 feet high, approximately 20 feet long, running the full length of the building's west side. The space had been deliberately engineered during the 2020 renovation. Original floor joists had been cut and repositioned to create a concealed horizontal chamber between the basement ceiling and the first-floor apartment above. The space was not empty. A foam sleeping pad lay flat against the subfloor. Beside it, a thin fleece blanket balled into a shape that suggested a body had curled around it night after night after night. Plastic water bottles, some crushed, some half full. Granola bar wrappers, a plastic bucket with a lid in the far corner. 3 zip ties attached to a floor joist, 2 intact, 1 cut open with what appeared to be a piece of sharpened metal. And above everything, gouged into the raw wood of the joists, scratch marks. Deep, desperate, layered. The marks of human fingernails dragged across pine over weeks and months, leaving grooves so deep that splinters of wood curled away from the surface like peeling skin. Tucked into a narrow gap between 2 joists, wrapped carefully in a torn strip of blanket fabric as if it were the most valuable object in the world, was a green spiral notebook. The first entry was dated May 15th. The handwriting was shaky but controlled, the writing of someone using a pen in near total darkness. I do not know where I am. I can hear people walking above me. I can hear their TV. They do not know I am here. My name is Madison Calloway. If anyone finds this, please tell my mom I tried. Detective Vincent Garza, 46, 19 years with Hamilton County Major Crimes, arrived at 11:45 a.m. He read that entry standing in the basement while the tenants from the first-floor apartment stood on the sidewalk outside, surrounded by officers, learning for the first time that a woman had been imprisoned directly beneath their living room. They had lived above that space for 4 months. They had cooked dinner, watched television, had friends over for drinks, walked barefoot across hardwood floors on summer mornings. Madison Calloway had been 18 inches below them, breathing the same recycled air, hearing every footstep. They never knew. A building that kept secrets. The building was owned by Cornerstone Property Holdings LLC, registered to one name, Gerald Voss, 44, a property developer and licensed renovation contractor who owned and managed 11 rental properties across Cincinnati. He had purchased 1847 Vine Street in 2019 and personally oversaw its renovation the following year. He held a general contractor's license. He did the majority of the structural work himself, subcontracting only plumbing and electrical. The void space appeared on no building permit, no inspection document, no architectural drawing. It was built to be invisible, and it was. Garza pulled Voss's records: no criminal history, stable income, licensed for 15 years, divorced in 2017, no children, lived alone in a single-family home in Norwood, drove a white Ford Transit van registered to Cornerstone Property Holdings, a white work van. Garza requested archived traffic camera footage from the night of May 14th. At 8:31 p.m., a white Ford Transit van with commercial plates registered to Cornerstone Property Holdings passed through the intersection of Short Vine and East University Avenue, 3 blocks from where Madison was last seen on the church parking lot camera, heading south, heading toward Over the Rhine, heading toward 1847 Vine Street. The partial frame from the church camera was re-examined. The curvature of the rear panel and the placement of the tail light were consistent with a Ford Transit. Madison was no longer in the Vine Street void. Garza needed to find where she had been moved, and he needed to understand why she had been moved. The answer to the second question was already on his desk. Voss had learned that 1847 Vine Street was scheduled for a fire code inspection in November. He had known for weeks, so he had moved her. The question was where, and the question underneath that question, the one Garza was not yet ready to ask aloud, was how many times Voss had done this before. 47 entries. Madison's notebook was photographed and cataloged as evidence. 47 entries spanning 114 days, from May 15th to September 5th. She documented everything. The approximate times Voss brought food or water, always between 1 and 3 a.m. The sounds she heard from the apartment above, a woman's footsteps, a TV that played the same morning news program every day, a phone ringing at irregular hours. Temperature changes as spring turned to summer, and the crawl space became so hot, she wrote breathing felt like inhaling through a wet towel. Her attempts to communicate with the person above her failures. Entry 39 would become the single most referenced piece of evidence in the trial. I scratched on the floor for an hour today. I could hear a woman walking above me. She stopped. I scratched harder. Then she turned on the TV and the sound went away. She did not hear me, or she thought it was pipes. I am so close to people and so far away from anyone. The first floor tenant was Carla Brennan, 29, a registered nurse at Christ Hospital. She had submitted 2 maintenance requests to the property management company about strange scratching sounds from beneath her floor. The first on June 23rd, the second on July 11th. The property management company was operated by Gerald Voss. He responded to both requests personally. He attributed the sounds to old pipes settling and possible rodent activity. He told Carla he would schedule a pest control visit. He never did. No one checked. No one opened the floor. No one looked beneath it. The man responsible for the sounds was the man the tenant called to explain them.
11 buildings. Garza obtained structural search warrants for all 11 of Voss's properties. Engineers from the Cincinnati Building Department accompanied officers to each one. They measured every ceiling, every floor, every wall against the filed blueprints. They checked every dimension. At the second property, a duplex at 3321 Warsaw Avenue in Price Hill, they found another void space. Between the second floor and the attic, same construction method, same concealed access through a panel that matched the surrounding surface, same evidence of captivity, a mattress, water bottles, restraints bolted to a joist, and scratched into a wooden beam in letters so deep they could be read by touch alone. Help. Jessica, 67 days. Jessica Pruitt, 23, reported missing from Covington, Kentucky 11 months earlier. She bartended at a restaurant on Madison Avenue downtown. She vanished after closing her shift on December 12, 2023. Her car was found in the second level of a public parking garage on 5th Street. No witnesses, no footage, no leads. At 901 Eastern Avenue, a modified crawl space was found beneath a rear addition. Empty, but luminol testing revealed biological evidence consistent with prolonged human presence over a period of months. At 2214 Queen City Avenue in South Fairmount, another void space, between the ground floor and a modified subfloor. Hair samples recovered from the joists, fibers embedded in the wood. 4 properties, 4 hidden chambers. Gerald Voss had designed prisons into the anatomy of his buildings. Void spaces between floors, sealed chambers inside walls, hidden crawl spaces beneath additions that no inspector would ever think to measure because they trusted the blueprints, and Voss controlled the blueprints. He chose Victorian-era buildings specifically, irregular floor plans, decades of previous modifications, basements and attics in crawl spaces that made additional voids architecturally plausible. He built them with his own hands. He filed plans that omitted them. He managed every tenant relationship personally. When someone heard something they should not have heard, he was the voice on the other end of the phone telling them it was nothing. The 11th address. Gerald Voss was arrested at his office at 3:15 p.m. on November 8th. He was sitting at his desk reviewing property tax documents. He looked at the officers. He showed no emotion. He said, "I want an attorney." He said nothing else. Not then, not during booking, not in the 17 months since. His personal computer was seized and analyzed by the Hamilton County Digital Forensics Unit. It contained surveillance files on 9 women. Photographs taken from public spaces, social media profiles downloaded and archived, daily movement schedules mapped with timestamps and route overlays, and detailed studies of security camera placements across 12 Cincinnati neighborhoods, street by street, block by block. Voss had mapped every blind spot in the city. He knew which intersections had coverage and which did not. He knew which parking lots had cameras facing which direction. He chose his abduction points with the same precision he used to choose his properties. He identified gaps, and then he built inside them. On November 10th at 9:30 a.m., investigators arrived at Voss's 11th property, a small single-family rental at 4407 Beachmont Avenue in Anderson Township. The house had been listed as under renovation on the Cornerstone Property Holdings website for 8 months. No tenants, no active lease, no scheduled inspections. In the basement, behind a false wall panel built from the same drywall and trim as the surrounding surface and painted to match, behind a panel that would pass a visual inspection from 3 feet away without raising a single question, they found Madison Calloway. She was lying on a foam mat in a space 4 feet wide and 7 feet long. She was emaciated, barely conscious. She had been moved from the Vine Street property approximately 6 weeks earlier, transported at 3 a.m. in Voss's work van, placed inside a modified tool chest bolted to the cargo floor. She weighed 97 pounds. Ligature marks in various stages of healing covered her wrists and ankles. She showed signs of severe malnutrition and prolonged psychological trauma. The paramedics who carried her out of that basement said she did not speak. She did not cry. She held onto the arm of the first responder closest to her and did not let go until she was inside the ambulance. She was alive. 174 days. She was alive. Her mother Diane arrived at University of Cincinnati Medical Center at 1:47 p.m. She walked into the room. She took her daughter's hand. She did not let go. Jessica Pruitt was not alive. Her remains were recovered on November 15th from a rural property Voss owned in Claremont County, 30 miles east of Cincinnati. Cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. She had been dead for approximately 9 months. Over the following 3 weeks, 2 additional sets of remains were recovered from the same property. Brianna Marsh, 24, missing from Dayton, Kentucky for 2 years. Alexis Thornton, 20, missing from Lexington, Kentucky for 3 years. Both had been buried within 200 feet of Jessica. 3 women who never came home, 1 who did. The walls he built. Gerald Voss was indicted on 4 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of unlawful imprisonment, and 14 additional charges. He entered no plea statement. He made no public comment. His trial began on March 3, 2025 in Hamilton County Court of Common Pleas and lasted 4 weeks. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney Laura Chang, 44. She presented the void spaces. She presented the blueprints and the measurements that contradicted them. She played the audio of Carla Brennan's maintenance calls to the property management line, the calls where a nurse reported scratching beneath her floor and a man's calm voice told her it was nothing. She displayed the surveillance files from Voss's computer. She projected photographs of the scratch marks in the joists on a screen 12 feet wide so the jury could see every groove. And she read 7 entries from Madison's green notebook aloud. She read them slowly. She did not add commentary. She let the words exist in the courtroom the way they had existed in the dark. In her closing statement, she held up the building plans for 1817 Vine Street. She held them so the jury could see the